I'll never forget the first day I ever went into a gun store in Victoria. And I walked in, and on the wall was this huge animal with massive antlers. And I was thinking, "Oh, I wonder where in Africa this thing was taken. It's absolutely huge and it just looks so amazing." And I spoke to the guy behind the counter and said, "Hey, where was this taken? Somewhere in Africa? Somewhere in Europe?" He goes, "No, it's about 2 hours down the road from here." And my mind just about exploded. I had no idea, like most Australians, that we actually have deer species here. We have the mighty Sambar deer, one of the greatest game species I've come to find throughout the entire world. I knew after seeing that deer that I wanted to be involved somehow. The problem is with all of us new hunters, new hunters that don't come from a background of generational hunters or parents that raised us as hunters. We don't even know where to start. We don't know where to look. We don't know where to start. We don't know what we need. We don't even know how to begin the process to find the things that we need to get involved with hunting these deer. I wanted to help everyone out there who has the question on their mind: where can I hunt? Where do you hunt? Where do you go hunting for sambar deer? Let's go through this step by step. I'm going to give you a couple of pointers. Hopefully at the end of this video, you've got a little bit more of an idea of what you need to do to get yourself into the hunting game. So here we go. So most people that go onto web forums or hunting forums or social media and they talk about hunting, you'll often see them come on and say, "Hey, where should I go hunting? Can you please give me a spot? Don't give me your special spot, but give me an area to try." And that can be frustrating for a lot of people to hear. They don't want to give up locations that they like to hunt or places that they like to keep to themselves. So I just want to arm you with a little bit of information to find that spot for yourself. Now, there is some good news, and here is the good news. Victoria is absolutely packed with deer. There are hundreds of thousands of deer on the public land hills all over Victoria. That is great news. There are over 50,000 registered deer hunters that take in excess of 50,000 deer, according to the Game Management Authority of Victoria, on an annual basis, which means there are plenty of deer around for you and for me. So you don't have to worry about low deer numbers. Everything east of the Hume Highway is got sambar deer in it. The entire eastern side of Victoria is full of sambar deer. The west side do have them as well. But if you're looking at density, eastern Victoria, and they are almost in every gully throughout that entire area. They're hard to... you can almost trip over their sign at times. They're literally everywhere. But finding them and getting onto them can be very, very difficult. But getting access to where they are is not difficult. And for most of us, we don't have... you might be married, you might have kids, you don't have a lot of hall passes to go out during the week. You might be stuck to weekends only. Even then, you might go out once every fortnight or once a month. Time is precious, I understand. So what are some things you can be doing from home to start preparing yourself to find your spot before you actually go out and spend the hours walking around the bush? Hunting maps. The Game Management Authority of Victoria have made some amazing hunting maps for Victorian hunters. You can get access to that through their website. And basically, they've mapped out all of Victoria, all of the locations that have public and private land, and they've got map legends that show you areas that you can hunt, areas that you can't hunt. If there are seasonal closures, there's usually a mention of that, which particularly relate to places like certain national parks. Have a good look over that. Have a look at some areas that you might have heard of, or some areas that may be closer to you. Or if you want the challenge, it could be further away. But have a look over those maps and just familiarize yourself with areas that you're able to hunt. Work out how to use it. Work out how to utilize it. If you need help on using that, give them a call and have a talk to them. I find that, if you're talking specifically about details on their website, they can be very, very helpful. So don't be shy in doing that. Google is your friend. How often have you heard that? When it comes to hunting, Google is absolutely your friend. The Google Maps are an absolute godsend when it comes to planning out areas to look for deer. There are lots of considerations with Google, and I want to drop just a few tips when you're looking through the hills of areas that you can hunt, cross-referencing them with those areas you've looked at on the GMA hunting website and the maps there, as you're looking over Google, here are some things you want to think about. I would say initially, try not to worry too much about the terrain thickness. It's very, very difficult to tell from Google, from a bird's eye view, an aerial view, whether or not an area is open or thick. Now, you do get a little bit better at that, but it's very difficult to tell from above. Really, what you do need is boots on the ground. So don't try and obsess too much about finding areas that look open from above, like split canopies that you can sort of see into. Sometimes they can be deceiving, and the ground scrub can be very, very thick. So try not to worry about that too much. If you're thinking about hunting and spending a lot of your time behind glass, behind binoculars, or behind a spotting scope, have a think about looking at locations that are very, very high. So have a look in the areas of Victoria where they have the highest hills, and maybe focus on those areas, because once you get up high, that will give you more visual access to the faces of hills that are across from you. So what you want to try and do is find a location where you could sit on the ridgeline of a hill and have visual access to as much country as you possibly can to glass into. If you're happy doing a sit and wait style hunt, where you go and find a location, might be a choke point where there's several intersecting trails, game trails from deer, or it could be a wallow, it could be a rub tree, it could be an area where you see a lot of footprints, it could be an area where you see a lot of droppings. If you're comfortable going to an area like that and doing a sit and wait hunt, some of these very thick areas in Victoria can be very productive. You can go in and have a look around, find your spot and sit on it. Now, I'd say the majority of areas in Victoria can be quite thick. So you're not going to have a hard time finding a place like that, and they can be very, very dense with deer. So if you're not looking at doing a very high country glassing style hunt, it might help to just pick a location that you've got good access to, not too difficult to get to, doing a sit and wait hunt, knowing that it's going to be a thick area. Okay, think about vehicle access. If you've got a really good, capable four-wheel drive, there are very few places in Victoria that you can't get to. With that considered, there's a lot of places that actually have seasonal closures. Lots of tracks and trails, especially up in the high country, that close seasonally. Check on those locations before you actually head out. So pick your spot. You can Google track closures, that type of thing. It will tell you if there's going to be any closures. You can ask other hunters, they'll generally know. If you've got a two-wheel drive, just make sure that when you're picking areas out on Google, and you've cross-referenced those with the GMA hunting maps, make sure that you're near an established road so you can easily get off that road into your hunting location. Get active online. There are lots of forums and social media pages where people get together and they talk about hunting. You don't want to go there and start asking people for locations. People tend to get their backs up on that, and I can understand that. But what you can do is share your experiences as you're trying to start hunting and you're getting out there and you're having a look. Even if you're having failures, Aussies love a battler, and they love an underdog story, and they love to help when people look to be putting in the work and not necessarily getting the results. So you'll find that just by talking about your experiences and sharing your experiences, seasoned hunters will get in and start giving you tips. Also, people put up a lot of trip reports. People get out together and they'll put up videos and pictures and talk about locations. You can glean a lot of information off of that. If you're not sure the type of country you want to be looking in, you can have a look on people's videos and pictures, and they're telling you the general sort of areas that they're hunting in. That can be really beneficial. So, you can do a lot of the scouting just by looking through these hunting forums, having a chat to people, not necessarily begging for spots, but just talking to them about hunting, sharing your experiences, and people jumping in and offering assistance. Talk about hunting. Talk about hunting with the people at work. Talk about hunting in your social circles. You'd be surprised how many people are either involved in some form of hunting, or how many people know of someone very close to them that's involved in hunting. And that can open doors. That can open friendships. That can open access to private property. That can open access to future planned hunting trips together, or just even information. They might say, I generally hunt around this area, and the area is, it's open and there's a high density of deer. And that might be all you need, and you go and check that area and find out that's a great spot to hunt. So just talk about hunting. I find it really opens doors. Getting access to private property. Once I was just driving down a country road and I saw a really nice looking dairy farm, and it was surrounded by a forest, and it looked like it would probably hold deer. So I just drove up to the farmhouse, in a respectful manner, not carrying any weapons, and just had a chat to the farmer and just said hi. I was in the area, asked him if he gets any deer on the property, asked him if he hunts at all, would he be interested in any venison, if I was able to have a look around and get some on a return trip. He thought that was a cool idea, and he was happy to let me on the property. Gaining access to private properties is not necessarily a difficult procedure, but it can take time. If you're respectful and you ask property owners in a respectful way, the worst that they can say is no. And farmers in general are great people, and they like to help out. And I think that relationship needs to be reciprocated. If they're going to give you access to their own property, I think that you should be offering something too, whether it's to fix something, bring something along, it will help them out. And that can develop a really good relationship that can give you a place to hunt for years to come. Okay. You picked your spot on Google Maps. You've cross-referenced that with the GMA hunting maps just to make sure that it's legal, it's public land, and you can hunt there. You've got a two-wheel drive vehicle, and you've made sure that you've got access to that location or near to it so you can jump out of the car and hike to that spot. What do you do now? Now, I'm going to spend a little bit more time in coming videos talking more about what to do when you get out of the car and begin the scouting process. But what I want you to know is just getting out there, once you've made that plan, you're comfortable that this area should have deer in it, you're comfortable that you've got legal access to it, you're comfortable that your car can get you there, and then on foot you can get out to these bush areas that you want to see, you've done 90% of the battle. You really have. Get out there and enjoy it. Make sure you've got a good GPS or good signal on your phone so that you don't get lost. Make sure you've got all of your gear together. Again, we'll go through that on coming videos. And just enjoy it. My first trip out, I did that. I made sure there was access. I made sure it wasn't too deep into the country. I wasn't really familiar with hiking solo. And I just got out there. And it had just snowed a little bit, so I could see footprints in the snow, which I took photos of, and later found out there were deer prints. I found rub trees, wallows, droppings. Found out that wallow it wasn't seasonal, it ran year round. And a deer honked at me, which was amazing. I'd never heard that before. I never heard anything like it. Sambar deer will make a very high-pitched honking noise when they've established that you're a problem, and they'll run off. And that's just a really good indicator that you're in the right spot. And so it was really special for me to hear that the first time I went out. You'll start getting very used to the sound of being honked by sambar if you're in the right areas. And I went back and hunted that spot for years, and it actually took me 4 years hunting that exact same spot before I actually saw my first deer there. I knew they were there, I could hear them, I could see all their sign, but it took me a long time to get out of my bad hunting habits or to develop some good hunting habits to finally start seeing the deer. So I guess what I want to tell you is don't give up. This is one of the greatest experiences that you can have. I think it's a real carnal, primitive experience to hunt. You don't necessarily always have to bring a deer home, but getting out there and trying your best and testing your skills against the environment and against the deer is a really rewarding experience. So just keep at it. Your skills will improve. Your ability to locate the deer will improve. And it all starts with just getting out there, making a plan, putting a pin on the map, a well-educated pin, knowing, having the pre-scouting done at home, having a fair idea there are deer in the area, and then getting out there and going for it. So, I wish you all the best in your endeavors. Stick with me. We're going to continue to go through this series where we talk about hunting, some tips on hunting, some things to avoid. And again, I just want to let you know that these are all tips and experience from someone that is not a professional hunter, the most average hunter you've ever seen. But I've made a lot of mistakes, and I'm hoping that I can speed up your experience a lot quicker than I had. And if I can help you a little bit, that makes me really happy. So feel free to comment below if there's anything you'd like to know about hunting for the upcoming videos. Please put them in the comment section. If we keep hitting the same sort of comments, I'll make sure I address them. Most of all, enjoy the process. This is, like I said, one of the most enjoyable and rewarding experiences that you can have getting out there and going hunting. So enjoy it, guys. Hopefully this has helped you a little bit, and I'll catch you on the next portion of the series. Thanks.